With the feather now cut free from the leather, we need to make sure it's very thin. I'm saying very thin, but that's a relative term. So I turn it over, and you'll see that there's like a little ridge where the blade cut through, and that's mostly what you want to get away. So I use a French edger. That's my go-to skiving tool, and I just gonna show this from the other side. 1 second. Alright, this is better. Okay, so you don't want to take too much away, and so you don't be very aggressive with this. Being thin leather, it's not sturdy, so you just need to be careful. And all you really want to achieve at this point is that just when you feel the feather in between your fingers, it must feel not necessarily uniformly thin, but thinner towards the edges. Luckily, using thin leather, this part of the game is not such a ordeal. I was giving this class, and a nice lady, Doreen, told me she battled with this French edger, and which gave me the idea of, hey, just use a thin leather, and voila, this works far better than trying to get a 7-8 ounce piece of leather to be paper thin. So was nice. This is another feather I made so that I can have something to go on with while the other one gets dry, because I'll show you now. I'm going to get it wet again. So first thing I do, once it's been cut out and thinned out, I do some cuts on this. So the first cuts I do are very, very thin strips of leather. It's like hair breadth. I do on the very end there, just very thin, right from the base there where it gets to the thicker portion of the leather, and I cut them to the outside, right through, so that they are independent. That's all I do there. And you'll see now when we get them wet what we're going to do with them. Then I do a few other odd cuts, just from the middle, maybe, not quite deep. You can make one right from the end of the center section to the edge, and let's say just one here more. As I say, they can vary in depth, those cuts that you do there. So then I take a sponge with a little water and just lightly wipe it. This is not a major wet form that we're going to do, but with a leather damp, it will retain the memory as we dry them. Okay, so now what I do with these guys, I just roll them between my fingers and lift them up and make them look like they're in chaos. There we go. See? That's it. And then these other guys, The other cuts we did, lift them up and twist them like that, and you might even twist them backwards and almost curl them there like that. And let's say this one on the other side, just gonna lift that one up and just curl it around so it stands up like that. So now the feather and its shape is all done. There's the one I demoed on earlier. Same thing. Yeah. Okay. Now these guys have got to get color. They're about done. Okay, I have assembled little tray, paint tray, and in 3 of them I have a few drops of water, just so that I can dilute the paint with. I have here white Cova color, and I've got a silver Angelus and a brown Angelus that I'm going to play with, see how they work. So I'll pick up some white with a brush and slightly dilute that with the water here. I don't want it too thick. Okay, and then I just simply, the first white layer, just simply get it on here. I don't do the center line of the feather. I just figure I just stay on the feathery part. Don't know what you call that part. Not the middle vein or whatever of the feather. So I just get it on like that. Not very heavy. Just so that there's something there. I found with the painting the feathers that it's really a case of the lighter you work, the more lifelike you can get it. I mean, I've seen beautiful ones with a dark, brilliant, bright color too. That's all about personal taste. So whatever floats your boat on this. There's no rules. There's no rules. I know the first feather I made when I took the class from Jim Linnell, I made a feather that looked bronze, like it was sculpted out of bronze, and that came out beautiful. I'll post a photograph of that on my blog with this video. But there it is, the whole feather lightly covered with white acrylic dye. Now let's slightly add brown. So with a brown, I am not going to be very aggressive here at all. I'm just going to put a little bit on the brush there. It's getting diluted by the white and the water, so it's not that dark. Okay, and now I'm just going to put the brown on the base of the feather. And if there's too much dye on your brush, then wipe it on the paper. There we go, and it fades to nothing. And this side, same thing. Okay, maybe a few gentle spots towards the tip, and then I might like the idea of those spots, so I'm gonna lightly do some spots in the back, denser towards the back and more lightly towards the front. You almost do a dry brush technique towards the front, and I think that's where I'm going to leave this little guy at that point. I think that came out not too bad at all. The brown at this point looks a bit dirty, but if you come back to this the next day and you see, wow, that looks like a real feather, that'd be nice. Just a few short notes here. The center line on this feather, if you work with a thicker leather that you cut the feather from, you can round off these edges of that center line with a modeling tool or something like that. In this, the leather is so thin that there's not really much there to round off at all. So those are things that you can do when you cut it from a thicker leather, and stamp this deeper so that that center line is raised a bit more. I deliberately made the back tip quite big, spread it out a bit so that I can do a little hole in the middle of it and maybe hang this feather from something. It might be a necklace, it might be a dream catcher, or anything like that you want to hang this feather from. And to quote a friend of mine, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you soon.